Hello and welcome to Let's Pod This. My name is Andy Moore. I'm one of your hosts, joined by Dr. Scott Nelson at the news desk.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
You know, I'm doing all right. I've kind of had some sinusy, upper respiratory garbage at the beginning of the week, but it's seems to have passed me by for the most part.
Well, lucky you.
Yes.
As listeners can tell, still dealing with it. Got some medication just a few hours ago. I'm on the mend. We are also joined in Upper Room Studios by Krystal Yoseph. Hello, Krystal.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us today.
We are super excited that you're here.
Krystal is a PR wizard guru.
I like it.
What's a female wizard? A witch?
I
don't think you can say that.
Right,
No.
yeah. Isn't that a sorceress?
I was going to say sorceress.
I'm down with sorcery.
Right.
Yeah.
Genius, guru, one of these things. And so you had a bit of a taste of politics this last session.
Yes.
It was like many of us, just kind of starting to get involved. And you and I used to work together doing public relations several years ago.
Is there anything you haven't done?
I don't do Windows.
Are you used to saying that? Somebody's asked you that before?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
don't you do?
There's a few things. I'm not a doctor.
Wow. I don't really know what to say about that.
I play one on TV. No. So, Krystal, thanks for joining us. We're excited for you to, hopefully, this won't be a one-time thing.
Yeah.
We're trying to, and we've kind of alluded to this last year that Scott and I are, we want to bring you more voices than just the two of us. And so we are hoping to kind of have a pool of co-contributors, co-guests, co-hosts, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Voices. Additional voices. More people. More perspectives.
Yes.
Better show.
That's right. Exactly. So the whole year. So Krystal is the first one of those. We're very excited.
Yes.
I am too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, we're glad you're here.
All right. Well, shall we do announcements first? I see Scott made the script.
Do we have any announcements?
I have 3 announcements. Yes, thank you.
I
had them scheduled later in the show. I don't have a thing for announcements, do I? Anyway.
Do you have your trumpet, like your ba-ba-ba-da?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's somewhere in here. Sure. We'll go with that one. Announcements. As a reminder, the session begins. The Oklahoma legislative session begins, and the Governor Stitt's first State of the State address will be on February 4th. That's a Monday.
I just got a migraine.
Directly related? Or not?
Sorry, yeah. I saw Nicole McAfee on Twitter that she had gone to the store to buy a bunch of Tums and medications of the sort, and the lady said, I assume it was a woman that was the checker outer, and she said, "Oh, rough night or something." She's like, "No, just preparing for the legislative session." So yes, February 4th. The speech usually is around noon. It is open to the public. If you would like to come, I plan to be there. Are you able to come, Scott?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make it this year.
All right. Well, I'll be there without you.
I'll be there.
Krystal's
I've
going.
saved my Monday.
All right.
To do some capital things that day.
Ooh, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm planning to be there, I think, all afternoon. So that should be exciting. Also in February, 2 more things. February 10th, which is a Sunday, is our first West Wing watch party of 2019. I think we announced this last week. We'll be watching 20 Hours in America, parts 1 and 2, a doubleheader.
One of the great 2-hour sets in television history.
Yes, indeed. So tickets are free, but they are required. So please go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Let's Fix This Okay. It's on our website, or just go to the Tower Theater website and you can look on their calendar and see it there.
Can I make a confession?
Yes. You don't watch The West Wing.
I've never watched it.
Well, now's your chance.
I know. It's embarrassing.
No, you're not alone.
I was just about to ask if you're a West Wing fan. But here's the great news.
Okay.
Between now and February 10th, I don't know what you have going on, but you have more than enough time to watch the 2 seasons that lead up to 20 Hours in America.
Is it just 2? I thought it was 4.
I can't remember. I think you're right, actually.
I can commit to starting it, and we'll see how far I get. How about that?
Yeah. So the pilot won. Well, 2 things. The pilot won an Emmy, which never happens. The Office sucked, the first one, but this is good. So know that the first episode is very good. The first 3 are good. However, I will say it doesn't really take off until the end of season 1. You got to get past Mandy.
I think
She wears me out.
That's very true. I would also say for you, Krystal, and for anyone else who is joining us and has not indulged in the West Wing yet, I cannot strongly enough recommend that as you watch the show for the first or 101st time, to follow along and listen to the West Wing Weekly podcast with Joshua Molina and Rishikesh Hirway, because it is phenomenal and provides a ton of just insight and context from a variety of perspectives about the show, like how they made it, how the issues that they're discussing and the issues that are focused on a particular episode of the show, like, are still relevant today. If you're into that kind of thing,
definitely,
it's a fantastic companion.
I lived in DC for 8 years.
Oh, that's right.
Didn't touch politics. I mean, the whole time I was doing sales and marketing and PR stuff, and then moved back home and worked on my first campaign the last 2 years. And so I feel, there's definitely something to like working local politics. I'm much more like down with that. So I didn't touch anything back in the day, and now here I am dabbling. One little toe.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
I think you did more than dabble last year.
It was a thing. It was a whole thing. I enjoyed it though. Like it was a very unique situation, but I definitely enjoyed it. I worked on 794.
Which, for everyone who's listening, 794 was Marcy's Law, right? Mm-hmm. You did well because it passed with 78%, and it was, as I recall, the only of the state questions to pass. So.
That's true.
A tip of the cap to you.
Thank you,
madam. Well done.
Thank you very much.
All right. It is, just to follow up, it's the season premiere of season 4.
Oh, okay.
So the first 3 seasons we get you there, which is really the best 3 seasons.
That's true.
How many seasons?
There are 7.
But the first 3.5 are the only ones that matter.
So, okay. So some people, like my friend Andrew here, will say that seasons 5, 6, and 7 are trash. That is not true. They, I think, are acceptable additions to the West Wing canon. Mm-hmm. However, it is correct to say, I would submit that seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 are definitely where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Excellent. Well, and we're going to do...
That was your second announcement.
No, it wasn't, but it's close. But I will say that we are going to do 4 West Wing watch parties this year. They're going to be in... February, May, August, and November. We will announce the other 3 on the 10th during the first one.
The 10th, okay.
Yeah, go ahead and put it in your calendar right now. I see you. Mm-hmm. Our third announcement is that our first Capital Day of the year will be on February 21st. So if you're a Capital regular, or if you've never been before and somehow you've been listening to our podcast thinking, those guys sound like interesting or they know what's going on, I would love to go to the Capitol. This is your chance. We will do, as always, a Capital Day each month of the session, February, March, April, and May. The first one is February 21st. We will be meeting in room 252. That's on the second floor, on the west side, the house side of the building, I believe. So go to our Facebook page, our website. Details are on there. We're going to be joined by House Majority Leader, or Floor Leader, John Eccles, and Senator Julia Kurt, who is my newly elected senator. She took David Holt's position, that seat in Senate District 30. So bipartisan and bicameral, also by gender, one of each for what that's worth. So they're going to speak to the group for a little bit. We'll provide some instructions and help you navigate the building however you need. So we're very excited. More information about that coming soon. Scott, you want to do the news?
Let's do it. Dive right in. So we have a very short and sweet news roundup for you this week. Only 3 articles, but I can tell you that all 3 of them are worth your time. So first up, we have from our friends over at the Journal Record, a piece by Catherine Sweeney. Executive orders target lobbyists, planes, hiring freeze, and cabinet. So yesterday, Governor Stitt issued his first 4 executive orders.
Reasonable.
Solid
start. Low-hanging fruit.
Had a press conference to talk about those. So we'll kind of go in order, not of significance, but just the order in which they are discussed here in Catherine's article. So first, he lifted, partially at least, the hiring freeze that's been in place in state government for several years now. So there's 2 kinds of state employees, what are called classified employees and unclassified employees. And there's a lot of differences that go into those, but you could kind of break it down to say unclassified employees are essentially like at will, and classified employees are employees that have some statutory protections and they can't be terminated easily along with some other things.
It's not like classified as in like FBI documents.
Right.
Which I've never fully understood until just this week, and I learned about this.
Yeah, so the governor lifted the hiring freeze on unclassified employees.
Which is most positions.
Yes, but did not lift a hiring freeze for classified employees. And so the thought is that this is trying to move away from the classification system and essentially make it easier both to hire but also fire state employees should that become necessary.
Right. I think it's a double-edged sword. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you guys, I saw that the Oklahoma Public Employees Association, they said they had some concerns about it, which I think makes sense.
There actually is a bipartisan effort to amend what's called the merit protection system. So the merit protection system is what gives these classified employees their protections. Senator Kay Floyd, who's a Democrat from here in Oklahoma City, she's got a bill, Senate Bill 913, that is designed to overhaul the system, and she's had some support from Mike Osborne, who's a Republican from Edmond. I don't know for that bill, I don't know that he's like a co-author on the bill, but he has voiced some support for overhauling that. So that was the first executive order. The second one is he is making it essentially mandatory for state agencies to have to file disclosures of all their spending on third-party lobbyists. Those lobbyists. Drat them. Bad people, lobbyists.
You know that's not true.
I know that's why I'm saying it with my voice dripping with sarcasm.
Oh. It's a thin line.
The governor said, and this is a quote, "It's frightening to think of one of our state agencies hired third-party lobbyists. I frankly can think of a lot of other things in state government that frighten me more than the idea that agencies hire lobbyists, but they're now required to disclose third-party lobbyists. This does not apply to legislative liaisons, which are state employees that in some agencies at least kind of function as lobbyists to the legislature on behalf of certain agencies. So that was the second one. He is also, and this is still a little bizarre to me that this is how Oklahoma government works, but every governor has a different cabinet, and not just different people, but different structure.
They can choose positions.
Yeah,
it's that way with the president too. I mean, you have the basic ones, but you can have up to 15 or 17 or something, and so
right. But he just
times change, Scott.
But he just created a new position and then just got rid of another one. He's just decided he's not going to have a cabinet secretary of education because he wants to work more closely with.
We have a superintendent. Makes a lot of sense.
Joy
I didn't realize we had. What is that? I didn't understand that we even had one and what they would do.
I'm not criticizing the fact that he got rid of it. I'm just saying I was that seems a little weird to me. That he can just be no, I don't want one of those.
I feel like if you're going to run the state, you get to pick who's on your team.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't picture you as an autocrat.
I'm not saying I want an autocrat. I just
I just want absolute power. That's all.
If I'm running an organization, business, nonprofit, government, I would like to pick who is in charge of the departments.
I think that's probably fair. I think it's fair. He's also, instead of hiring a Secretary of Health and Human Services, he's going to hire a Secretary of Health and Mental Health and another Secretary of Human Services and Early Childhood Initiatives. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think you can make a very strong case that early childhood initiatives could be folded into health and mental health. But that's just, it's early childhood could almost be its own thing because it's so big and it's so important. He is also going to get rid of the secretary that Governor Fallin had created for finance, administration, and information technology because he said that is just way too much for one person. So that's going to be 3 separate positions.
That's fair.
Secretary of Agency Accountability, Budget, and then a Secretary of Digital Transformation and Administration. And then finally, this is the one that to me I think is stupid, but whatever. So OHP, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, has an air flight service for the governor, and that includes a plane. And Stitt says, by God, that's a waste of taxpayer money. We need to sell that plane. So the governor should use a helicopter for emergencies, such as visits to sites for tornado damage and otherwise rely on donated flights from private organizations.
Yeah, so here's my hot take, and Krystal, I'd love to hear from you. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we probably don't need to the expense and maintenance. I didn't realize, but Stitt is a pilot. Did you know this? Yeah, he's actually a certified, whatever, licensed pilot himself, I guess. Okay. And so if you're not flying like a certain number of hours a year, it doesn't make sense to use it. And I feel like I would wager over the course of a year, because it's a little plane. It's not like a jumbo jet. And so it's only for like little puddle jumper flights around the state. If you're just going to Enid or something, like, you can drive. It's not saving that much time. And if you're going farther than that, you're taking commercial airfare anyway. And so it's low-hanging fruit. It's not a lot of money that's saving, but it's saving some. I feel like his statement about like, well, we could just have people donate flights. I was like, well, don't say that. Like, we know that might happen, but like, that's like a reminder that like rich people have special access that the rest of us don't. Right? Yeah,
it struck me as odd, that last part, but I like the meaning behind it. I think is what matters the most. It's just like the idea of kind of trimming that a little bit, because he can make that decision. I like it.
Yeah, it's like a goodwill gesture.
I'm okay with all of this.
I understand. If I was governor and I found out I had a plane, I'd be like, well, that's cool. Guess I'll go have breakfast in Enid. I don't know.
I guess, I mean, like, and you know, this is something we'll talk about, this issue we'll talk about here a little bit later in the podcast, but it's like, okay, so we're going to get rid of the plane and save, I'm making this number up, but like, let's just say that it saves the state $1 million a year to get rid of the plane. I would frankly be stunned if it saves us that much.
No, yeah.
But let's just say that it saves $1 million a year. That's like waste and abuse, like good. But we're going to go ahead and set work requirements for Medicaid that's going to cost the state between $5 and $10 million to cover fewer people. We're going to not accept federal dollars to expand Medicaid, which would be $900 million in our pocket that we pay in taxes already. Like, I understand the sentiment of like, we're going to trim the fat and like clean everything. But if you're going to trim the fat, like trim the freaking fat, right? Like, to me, it is a symbolic gesture that has zero like practical implications.
Sure, but he's only been on the job for like 2 weeks, and I think so. This is where I get frustrated with how these discussions go. And we had this discussion before we started recording that, like, while what you say may be true, let's just accept it for a win, and then go on and fight the other fight. It's not like, well, you should keep the plane, but do the other thing instead because it's worthwhile more. Look, let's just do both. This one happened to go first.
Sure, that's fine. I'm not like saying that Kevin Stitt is going to be like a terrible governor because he got rid of the plane. I just the other three things that he did, these other three executive orders, are things that I think I honestly really agree with. I think make a lot of sense in terms of policy and government structure. And this was, to me, this was a very like, I don't know, whatever. It's fine. I'm not angry that he got rid of the plane. I just think it's dumb.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's all. So anyway, check out Journal Records article for all of the details.
I wonder if it's going to be on the state auction website. I'm going to go look it up right now.
You want to go buy it?
Maybe. Do you?
Craigslist.
I have no. It's
It's a King Air, I think. Isn't it a?
Is it like a contract?
I believe it's a King Air twin engine turboprop. Is the plane? I think.
I think you're right. I just love that you like researched it and be like, well, it's a 97 model. It's got the chrome spoke wheels.
Next up, we've got an article from Trey Savage, editor-in-chief of Non-Doc. This is a long piece, and I'm not going to go through the whole article because I think people can read it, but I think we can have a discussion about kind of just the general idea. So Oklahoma City Public Schools has announced their, what do they call it? Their pathways to progress. Yeah. They'll be closing something like 26 schools throughout the district. One of the moves that has gotten a lot of attention and that I think has provoked some of the strongest reaction, both positive and negative, is the plan to move Classen SAS, so the Classen School of Advanced Studies, which is an application-only magnet school in the district. Currently, it's at the old original Classen High School, which is just a few blocks south of where we are now on Ellison Avenue. And it has junior high and high school students. And the plan is to actually take the high school and move it across town to Northeast Academy, on the northeast side of town. And that will be the high school. And then the building here, the original class in high school, the original building, will be the middle school only. So it'll split the middle school and high school into two separate buildings, one on each side of town. Northeast Academy, as it exists now, will close, but the district is saying that they feel like this will open up a lot more opportunity for many, many more students to apply to and attend class in and take advantage of its programs. So,
Yeah.
thoughts on this?
I do sit on the board with the Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance, and so we talked about this yesterday. I didn't attend the first meeting that they had, but I know there's one on the 27th. What's that, next week sometime? The second of 3 meetings is taking place that day, so I do plan on going to that just so I can learn a little bit more about sort of the nuances. And obviously from the standpoint of being on the board and serving the East Side, it's like, I did ask the question in our meeting yesterday. I'm like, so what does this mean? Like, give me like a 40,000 level, like what's happening? And so I still wasn't clear on that. So I will be attending the meeting. I'm interested. I don't really know what it's actually going to do versus, again, intentions are great, but it'll be interesting to see. But I think there are probably a lot more questions that need to be asked to fully vet it and make sure that it's serving the kids truly. But then also the title of this alone, Hope and Fear, it's like, what do those two things mean to everybody, like each individual?
Right.
I don't have kids, so I can't even imagine letting whoever made these decisions, like, I would go and ask questions. I can't imagine not. So
yeah, change. I think change is hard, like regardless of who you are, and so I'm kind of excited that we have the opportunity to really like think about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, the reactions were interesting. I think that you could probably predict some of them. There were some parents that are really excited, some parents that are not excited about it at all. There were some reactions from members of the community around where Northeast sits now that were honestly pretty similar. There were a couple folks that were like, hey, this is something like maybe it sounds great, like in name, but is the school really going to serve... Is it going to serve the members of the community that live here? Is this like an attempt at, like there was one person that said this is an attempt at gentrification, and
that guy speaks at city council all the time.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. But I think it'll be interesting to see kind of where this goes and what the discussion around it is, because I think there certainly is going to be a lot of discussion around the rest of it. All right. Lastly, we have a piece from the Frontier. This is concerning a bill that has been filed by Representative, I believe this is from Representative West in the State House, as well as Representative, Josh West and Kevin McDougal from Broken Arrow and Grove. Josh West from Grove, McDougal from Broken Arrow, would amend Oklahoma law to get rid of the definition of excessive force as it pertains to peace officers. So right now, excessive force says that excessive force will be presumed when a law enforcement officer continues to apply physical force in excess of the force permitted by law or said policies and guidelines to a person who's been rendered incapable of resisting arrest. So excessive force happens either when law enforcement officers use so much force that it becomes criminal, or when they use force that's in excess of the guidelines set by their department. And this is a bill that would strip out that language of policies and guidelines.
So you can't commit excessive force if it's not a thing.
Right. Well, so excessive force would still exist, but it would only exist in cases where the force was so excessive that there was an attempt to hold the officer criminally liable.
So if it like went into assault or something?
Right.
So
what they're saying
I don't
is...
know that I'm cool with this.
So like...
Krystal says no as well.
Discuss.
Yeah.
You go first.
I'm just not okay with it. I mean, it just seems like this is in my opinion, a well-established definition that exists in, I assume, most other states. And has been used effectively, and I feel like maybe not that police officers don't need to be protected, but it's protecting them from the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Like, and I err on the side of transparency about stuff, and I feel like this is solving a problem that's not the real problem. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I wonder what the underlying issue is. I don't like the idea of striking that piece out of it just because of what we've seen can be done while it's still a thing. So, I mean, to just see these two, and I probably shouldn't say too much more, but I don't.
You can say
okay.
you can say whatever you want.
I'm not okay with it.
Both of our
Final
listeners.
answer.
Yeah, final answer. I need that sound effect.
Right? No, I think they talk to some attorneys that are involved in like this type of litigation here in the article, and they're saying they think this is not appropriate because they said that these officers' cases of excessive force are almost never criminally prosecuted, right? Like, however, the legal remedy that is pursued by victims of excessive force is through civil action. So they go to the court and they say, okay, we're not going to put an officer on trial for assault or what have you, but we can prove that the officer violated these policies and guidelines. So that means it's excessive force, and so there should be some remedy for that. And by removing that, the only remedy you would have is through the criminal justice system. And so if they don't prosecute, then there's no way to try and pursue any action, which I agree with the two of you. I think it's a huge problem. Like, I think that...
I assume this is probably promoted by the DA's council, who is, they're DA, so they tend to have a more like law and order slant.
I would guess that's the case. I think though that, I think that police oftentimes I think they try to do the best that they can, and I think that police officers have a really hard job. I also think though that we've seen, and I think it's been known this is the case for a long time, but especially in the last several years, we've seen that there is, at least in many communities, kind of a culture in policing where force is not applied uniformly to everyone, and it's not applied. Force isn't applied to everyone, and the degree is not applied equally in terms of its use, period. And when it is applied, it's not applied uniformly according to a standard. It seems very arbitrary.
So
I feel like this could make that worse.
When I was in undergrad many moons ago, my senior thesis was about stress and job satisfaction among juvenile correctional workers, because I knew some guys who worked at the juvenile detention center and like heard their stories of how they treated some of the inmates back then, and I was like, that's not okay. Like, why? And they were like, like a culture of just like, these punks, like they think they can mouth off and we'll teach them a lesson. And I was like, they're just kids, right? Like maybe they're older teenagers or whatever, but that piqued my interest to like get in there and be like, what is your life like and what's your job stress, and kind of learn more about that. And I think one thing, and this is getting into our next segment here, well, a couple of segments, but criminal justice reform is going to be a huge topic this session. And I think these kinds of issues all are connected, right? Like the way that police officers treat individuals in the community, the way that people are treated by correctional officers in facilities, the way that we fund that, the way that we relate to that, how we assign punishments, all that stuff is like just a broken system that is really in need of repair.
Agreed. Second.
No, I think too, just like sitting here listening to you and kind of thinking through it too. I think one of the other things that gets me about this, just at even a more fundamental level, is it seems to be arguing, and I think we hear this argument a lot, that because of the job that they do and the inherently tense and stressful nature of that job, police officers and law enforcement officers generally should be allowed more leeway, whereas I tend to think, no, they're police officers, so they should be held to a higher standard, right? Like, I don't know. I think it'd be really interesting at some point to, talk with law enforcement and kind of see. That's a conversation I think would be interesting.
Indeed. All right, let's.
That's it for the news roundup today.
Oh, one last note though, just a plug
No Pruitt watch. Sorry, guys.
No Pruitt watch. But I would encourage listeners to download and listen to the Oklahoman's Political State podcast. It's a great podcast every week. Ben Felder and Justin Winginter do a great job every week. This week, they also have two of Stitt's cabinet members, John Budd, who's the COO and OMES person, and the new Ostro is his last name, who's the Digital Transformation and Administration Secretary.
Oh, yeah.
The new position. It was super interesting. I was telling you, Scott, about it earlier. I just listened to it today. It was a really interesting to hear their inside perspective on how they really want to help government work better. And there's a lot of discussion about going to individuals who receive government services, which we all do on some level, right? Whether it's Medicaid or SNAP or disability or roads or driver's licenses. There's something we all consume, right? We're all in this world together.
Not me.
Whatever, man. You're not off the grid. Not me, man. I just live my farm. And you're paying for it either way. So anyway, it was about how to serve them better. It was really a customer-focused view that I hope permeates the rest of his administration. So anyway, it was interesting. I encourage you to listen to it. All right. With that, let's move on to our next segment, which will be, Scott, let's try to shorten this from what we had scheduled, but do a quick recap from yesterday, which was Thursday, was the Oklahoma Policy Institute's Budget Summit. Scott and I attended along with three of our other board members. That was pretty cool. I think we had the second largest group, second only to OK Policy.
We're out there fixing it.
We are. People who want to know, what's up? What do these numbers mean? And Scott, you were on a panel even. Got to speak.
I was. Yes.
Both as probably more so as a physician, specifically a pediatrician, than your role as a board member with us. But I think you did an excellent job of representing both of your roles.
Thanks, man.
Hats off.
Tried. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a good day. It was very interesting. I think there was enough that happened that it was worth, talking briefly about it here. As anyone who listens to the show or pays even the smallest bit of attention to Oklahoma politics will know, the budget has been a huge issue for at least the last decade, but certainly in the last few years. And so every year, this is the sixth year that OK Policy has done their budget summit, and things are a bit brighter this year. Looks like there's going to be more money coming into the state treasury this year than we've had in some time. Really, the first year that we've been back to near 2008, 2009 levels.
But this is a little bit like when you get a raise, but that's great because you also just had to buy a car, and so you have a car payment. Your student loans are coming due next month,
right?
As are mine.
Right. Well, and so this is the thing that David Blatt, the executive director at OK Policy, spent a lot of time talking about yesterday. Is there's this number floating around about $720 million extra. Oh man, we can do everything. We can go out and get whatever we want, right? Once I sit here, it's we've got more money, but more problems, because even though it looks like there is all this extra money coming in, according to the OK Policy analysis, it's not 720. It's more between 250 and 400, which is still a lot, but half, right, of what we're hoping for. And the reason for that is, one, the estimate of 720 is calculated based on oil and natural gas prices that were higher at the time than they are now. So that's going to impact revenues. But we also owe money from years past, right? We have ad valorem reimbursement that's going to come out of that, bond payments. We also have lost $100 million or so in graduate medical education and CHIP funding. So when you take all those out, you end up with this number that's between 250 and 400 million, which again sounds like a lot until you look at the fact that Common Ed has asked for 440 million, Higher Ed has asked for 101.3, DOC has asked for 1.5 billion. Okay, mental health has asked for 161 million, and then state employees through raises and pensions, etc., have asked for 185. So even excluding the 1.5 billion from DOC, that right there is still about 800 million in asks for 250 to 400 million in revenue, and that's not even getting into things that the legislature might have as a priority that no one's asked for. So
Also, revenue will likely be down at the final thing from
Yes.
the certification.
right. So that's the deal. We've got we have about 400 million ish, between 250 and 400 million more dollars, but we have about 5 different uses for each one of those, and
Yeah.
we're going to have to pick.
We got 2 plugs and 5 holes.
Yes. All
Is
right.
has there ever been a more? There has been a more Oklahoma reference, but that was a pretty solid one.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
think.
yeah, that's yes.
Krystal, if you had to choose, let's say we gave you $400 million and you were king of Oklahoma, queen of Oklahoma, what would you spend the
Sorceress of
money on?
Oklahoma.
Sorceress of Oklahoma. What would you spend the money on?
Just anything.
Not a plane.
Not a plane. We're over planes. We don't do those anymore.
From the state agencies, like they all come to you say,
Yeah.
Sorceress, Krystal, we need money for this, this, and this. How do you?
Mental health is a major issue. I think education, those two really kind of strike a chord with me. Obviously pay raises, but that's the thing. Like, you're already running out of money. Looking at the numbers you
Right.
have here, it's like it's already gone after just naming 2 of the 5 I see on this list. And like you said, that's before anything else comes up. It's kind of like, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're like, I got paid, I'm going to go out this weekend. Then you get into that next week and you're like, oh man,
I should have
money
stayed
out.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I've
why
been
didn't
there.
I live tight on the front
Right.
end of
'Cause
this?
I'm eating ramen.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know.
It's tough. I mean, that's a great analogy, and I think that's the problem that we've been in for so long. Is we have this, we're used to like living in this scarcity. So, the other policy takeaway from yesterday, and I think County Commissioner Carrie Bloomer tweeted this as well. That to me, one of the overarching themes that came up time and time again was expanding Medicaid, which I know OK Policy has been pushing for, but it came up from the audience several times as well. And Senator Thompson, Roger Thompson, who's the A&B chair, the Appropriations and Budget chair in the Senate, was asked this directly by someone in the audience. Was that? I don't know if that person was a representative or not.
No, it was by it wasn't the city councilwoman from Norman. It was
Oh yeah, somebody.
yeah, but no, he was asked the question like,
And he said he was open to it. He was open to hearing a discussion. His concern, and I think this is the concern we hear echoed by many Republicans, is that they don't want to say, yes, let's do it, because they're afraid that the feds might yank the money away, which I get. However, like, doesn't that apply to every other funding source, right? Like, what if the feds yanked our roads money or education or anything? I mean, like, nothing is a for sure deal, and it seems silly or perhaps slightly misguided to me to be like, we'll take money for everything else, knowing that it could be pulled away, but not for this because it might be pulled away.
yeah, like we're not going to expand healthcare and give you access now because in 20 years we might have to take it away from somebody else. Like that seems silly to me. What do you think, Krystal?
I agree with you. That logic doesn't really apply. Doesn't come full circle. So
Well, as we know,
Yeah.
logic doesn't always apply to politics.
Well, it's I have to make this point, I guess, because I'm a douche. I don't know, but because Senator Thompson was saying he made the point that the state came back. He was like, he said just because you make an agreement with the federal government doesn't mean they're going to keep it, because we had this agreement about how we fund graduate medical education, and they just came in, clawed back, and took away $100 million, $150 million last year, and so you just don't ever know. And I was like, no, but they did that because we broke the terms of the agreement.
Right.
Like they weren't just like, nah, we're changing our mind. They were like, you cheated, and so give us our money back.
Right. Right. Which is a different ballgame.
Right.
Yeah.
You do know that they'll keep their end of the bargain as long as you keep yours.
Right.
So
All right. Should we get into the next phase? Ooh,
Yes.
don't I have some kind of echo thing here?
you should
I think last year I added this in.
for this.
I don't know how to use all the After Effects on this mixer board yet. Okay, well, we'll just skip it this time. I'll try to edit it. Listeners, I'm sorry if this isn't cool when you listen to it. It's because I couldn't figure out how to do it with our mixer board. But we are officially announcing our 2019 Predict-O-Rama. That's all I got. I don't know how to do the echo thing with just... Last time I did it, in post, and I'm using different software now.
This is my sad face.
I can see it. The listeners can't, but they can hear it.
Sad face. Crystal?
She's laughing.
Sad face.
It is very sad.
All right, so for new listeners and for Krystal, last year at the beginning of the legislative session, Scott and I kind of threw out a few things, a dozen or so, of bills or issues that we wondered if they would or would not pass, and allowed listeners, fans, followers, fellow fixers to predict. And the winner, Peter Evans, received a tote bag. I will tell you that I finally last week got Peter's address. He could not be with us today, and I mailed him his tote bag. Peter, I hope by now that you listen to this, you've received it. I also included a T-shirt and a couple of koozies because I felt bad. There was interest payment on that tote bag that I had for a year. And so this year, it'll be a similar package. I'm out of tote bags. That was a one-time thing. But the winner will get a T-shirt, 2 koozies, and a sticker.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
That's fair, yeah.
All right.
I like Peter. I think I know the Peter Evans.
You know Peter Evans?
Yeah.
I don't know that I know him.
He was in my loyal class, potentially.
For real?
I think.
Peter, if that's you, please tweet at us or email. If Krystal...
Text me.
Yeah, right. Hit her up. Not right now because you don't know that we're here, but when you listen to this, that would be really cool. I would still... the invitation still stands. We'd love to have you on. We have a couple of listeners. Ed, you also are on our list of people to try to get in this year.
Anybody else who wants to come on the show, you can also just email us and come on the show.
Looks like we're going to have Grant Herms from News 9 in a couple of weeks here. He was just texting me about a story that we were discussing earlier today. So
interesting.
The week of February 12th, he'll be on. So anyway, we've identified a few bills that we are interested in. And I will tell you now that, so we were recording this on Friday, so it should be posted hopefully later today or this weekend. I will send out an email. So if you're not on our email list, please go to letsfixthisok.com and sign up for our email list. And we will send out an email link with the Predict-O-Rama thing so you can fill it out and make your predictions. Yes, Scott?
This is unrelated. Did y'all know General Hospital is still on?
No.
I would have assumed, I mean, yeah.
What about
say yes.
As the World Turns?
I mean, I don't know, but KOCO, programming note. Next Friday's episode of General Hospital will be on abc.com. I had no idea that was still a thing.
They got to tell people a week in advance to watch their stories.
If I had a Predict-O-Rama about that.
And all that, yeah.
That's right.
My mom records 2 stories every day and watches them religiously.
My mom
has been for decades.
My mom used to watch Guiding Light, and As the World Turns. Okay. Sometimes Bold and the Beautiful because it came on first. I don't think she does anymore, but she has a full slate of DVR shows. Yeah. 2 DVRs worth.
Yeah, so there was one summer I was really into, let's see.
This is going to be good.
It wasn't As the World Turns. What was the other one, the big one, like 80s, 90s soap opera?
We've named a bunch of them. Not General Hospital?
Not General Hospital, not As the World Turns. Wasn't there like an...
Not Bold and the Beautiful?
No, not all. Was it All My Children? What was the...
Young and the Restless?
Young and the Restless, yeah.
No, I don't remember what it was. Oh, Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives, yes.
There was one summer I was really into Days of Our Lives. Because
Which summer? Was this last summer?
No, so this was... it was
2013.
probably the summer of 6th or 7th grade. Because, so... My mom worked all day and my dad worked all day. My mom is a preschool teacher and my brothers were young enough that they still went with her to work every day. So I stayed home by myself. And I always had like chores and stuff I had to do. But like I had the TV on. And as you find out, if you're in that situation, especially in like 1992, there was not a lot on television in the middle of the afternoon.
Did you not? No cable?
I mean, we had cable, but dude, still, like, it was like...
MTV showed music videos all day long.
Yeah, but TRL didn't start until like 2, right?
I don't know. I didn't ever watch TRL.
I don't think it was
music
on in
videos.
92.
No.
Whatever.
Singled out, though.
Whatever. But yeah.
Before Jenny McCarthy got crazy.
I watched me some... I watched me some Days of Our Lives that summer, and it was really bad, but you also just get, like, sucked into it because it's so, like...
Well,
what's gonna happen?
I work from home most days, so a lot of the times I'll have Lifetime movies on.
Nice.
Just because you know the plot. You know, the first 20 minutes, they're going to set it up. It's going to drag out for an hour and 10 minutes. And then the last 20 minutes, because I don't think those minutes add up. So 2 hours. The last 10 minutes is when it gets good. So I just like take a little break and I look up and I watch everybody kill each other or, you know, somebody gets away. And
Very Shakespearean.
They go down the stairs. Yeah, like whatever. They go down the stairs instead of up for the whole 2 hours apparently. And so, but it's good to just have in the background because I just look up and I'm like, oh. It's just mind-numbing, just like background noise.
Right. So best and worst Lifetime movies that you've seen.
I've seen so many.
It's like, do you even know what they're called? Like when you turn them on?
It's embarrassing. I've seen so many. I don't know. I like the newer ones though. They're getting really good with them. Before, like in the past, like you can tell if it's like a 1990s or like early 2000s. I really prefer the later ones.
Have you watched An Officer and a Murderer?
Do you know the Lifetime movies, Scott?
You should watch An Officer and a Murderer.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, and Blue-Eyed Butcher.
I have seen that.
What
one.
is happening right
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Dude, that's
I've seen
crazy,
that one.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, An Officer and a Murderer is this guy. So this guy
This
is
is our
a
spin-off podcast.
He is enough for this. So this guy is a colonel in the Canadian Air Force. Is about to become a general. Like this guy. So this guy,
ridiculous.
the Queen visited Canada. Okay, the Queen visited Canada, and this dude piloted around the Queen. Okay, he's a pilot, and he eventually, like, the punchline is had spent like years sneaking into women's homes and like stealing their undergarments, which he like kept and cataloged. But then it progressed where he would sneak in while they were there, but like not do anything, but just like leave, like he would like leave notes or like do things that like let people know that he'd been in their house. Yeah.
AF.
So then he started breaking. He like escalated. So then he started breaking in, and he would like tie he would like tie them up and like make them think he was gonna like attack them, but then not actually like do anything. And then it like finally he ended up like raping and killing this woman.
Of course, right.
Yeah.
And then he got like caught, and it was this huge thing because he's this incredibly like decorated, respected member of the Canadian military. So he's serving life in prison now. And when he was discharged from the Canadian Air Force, they like stripped him of his rank, stripped him of all his medals, put him in prison, took his uniform, and physically burned it in an incinerator.
Yeah, they're like, we don't need this to exist anywhere.
Right?
Ever. Yeah.
Did they like show a scene where they like ripped his medals off his chest?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. So you got to watch Officer and a Murderer.
Okay.
We'll talk about Blue-Eyed Butcher next time.
Yeah.
Please.
I've seen it. So
Well, Crystal's got to come back so we can talk about
Yeah.
Butcher. I did not see this podcast go in this direction. We're going to give everyone out there, stay sexy, don't get murdered. I guess that's the thing. All right, well, back to Predict-O-Rama. I don't know how we can recover from this.
I forgot. Yeah. What are we doing? Okay.
All right, so we put together a few bills that we're watching, and as I said, I'll email this out here shortly. Scott, so the first one we've already mentioned, McDougal and West about excessive force. Scott, that's one you're watching, right?
Yeah, this is Predict-O-Rama, right? So we have to say what we think is going to happen. I would say this is House Bill 2328.
Are we casting our own predictions here?
Do what? I think
Sure.
we're all making predictions on each one of them, right?
Sure.
I will say that this gets out of committee, and
It's just
I'm going to say that this gets out of committee, but I don't think it passes.
So I think for this, should we just say, like, if it passes, if it's fully passed and signed, right? I mean, that's what the actual.
No, I don't think it'll become law.
I mean, we can just say. I guess we're not really gonna like. It's not if listeners beat us,
Right?
right? So you think it'll pass committee but not pass?
Yeah,
My headphones are not working.
that's my guess.
All right, that's a fair guess. I think it fails on the floor too. Crystal,
I like that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm hoping that's what happens.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one is bond for groups wanting to protest or rally at the Capitol. This is by Senator Allen. Right, so basically, Joe Dorman was railing against this yesterday at the policy summit. So there's a bill proposed that if groups of 100 or more decide to protest or rally at the Capitol, they'd have to first pay for a $50,000 bond, which would probably only cost like $50. but it's still preposterous. I would charge, and it's unclear like if our Capitol days would count because we're not protesting, we're just coming to talk to our legislators.
So Andrew, we passed a lot of unconstitutional and ridiculous laws in Oklahoma. So what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think this will fail. I think this will not even get heard in committee. Maybe it's heard but not passed out of committee.
Yeah, it's a little
heard but not
ridiculous
passed out of committee.
I don't think it gets heard. I
All
don't think it goes anywhere.
All right, Krystal, what'd you say?
I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I don't think it definitely won't pass on the floor, I don't believe. But
Do you think it passes committee?
It's dumb.
You can say whatever you want.
I'm trying to like be on my best behavior.
Trying to
I don't-
hedge.
Oh, you don't have to. Oh, you don't have to do
Actually,
that.
Just typed into this. No, yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, Andy. I think that what you said is about right.
All right.
Yeah.
The third one is from Representative O'Donnell. That it would make it a misdemeanor to disrupt the legislature. How does he define disrupt?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Oh.
Misdemeanor is subject to a $500 fine and up to 6 months in jail.
Is this for anybody?
Yeah.
What if it's another House member?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like,
I'll have to go back to the bill text and see.
theoretically, like sometimes stuff gets rowdy up there.
Yeah, it does. This, for me, this does not get heard in committee.
No, yeah, I think it doesn't either.
No.
All right, good. Let's hope not.
We like cards, but I guess people can't see.
Yeah, right.
I like the idea of making this interactive.
I do too.
Yes.
So we've talked about doing this is a video thing. Perhaps someday soon, if we have an office, we could do like a live podcast, live stream someday. All right. Representative Russ wants to ban teacher walkouts entirely and change collective bargaining rights for teachers. Do they actually have collective bargaining rights now? They're not a union.
It's like it would make it even more restrictive.
Okay. I could see this being heard in committee but not pass.
I think I agree with that. I'm almost tempted to say I don't think it's going to get heard.
We don't yet know what committee this is assigned to, right?
Correct.
Because it could go to, like, if it goes to Common Ed, I don't think it gets
Right.
heard. But if
Right.
it goes to, like, Judiciary or something,
Right.
I don't know.
Not being heard would be my preference, but just shut it down.
Shut it down.
We'll be done. All right. Next up, we got House Bill 1413 from Representative Waldron. I like this one. Lawmakers would be held responsible financially for legislation that is deemed unconstitutional by state or federal courts.
See bond for protests.
Right. So it's a little bit like, I mean, it doesn't have as much teeth as it sounds like. I want to say it's like for like court costs. So it's going to be like
Right. But still, I mean,
$100, but it's still like
a few $100, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fees out there. It's part of the criminal justice reforms we got to look at. But
yeah.
they
They would not be responsible for like litigation.
But
costs.
right now, there's no penalty aside from like public shame.
People calling you a dumbass.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That if you propose legislation, although I feel like if you propose it and it passes, like that's not just on you, like that's on everyone who voted for it, right? Mm-hmm. And so who would be responsible? Would it be the author?
Yeah, the bill author.
So like, if you propose something that you know is unconstitutional and you don't think it's going to pass, and then everyone passes it just to stick it to you,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of awesome,
Right?
Be like, I hate this jackwagon. Like, let's all pass it just so he gets fined.
Exactly.
Now, what do you think? Is this going to pass?
No,
No.
Yeah, right. Agreed. Definitely not.
I mean, I don't think it'll pass. I wouldn't mind it getting heard just for the sake
see
of
what
being
ha-
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
let's have an honest discussion about the fact that we pass so many unconstitutional laws that end up getting challenged in
I
court.
mean, it's a
and-
layer of accountability that I like.
Right.
But, I mean, are they actually going to do that to themselves?
There are other states, Krystal, that have, you may already know this,
No.
but there are other states that have like teams of attorneys that review proposed legislation to make sure that it does not conflict with the existing laws or constitutions. I assume that we have something like that, and yet things still get through.
I believe that you can ask the Attorney General's office for an opinion. At times, the Attorney General's office will weigh in with an opinion without being asked, I
Right.
think. But I don't think they do it for every bill.
But surely some of the staff are involved. We should ask.
You'd think.
All right. So then Representative Dunnington is proposing banning conversion therapy. This is as a therapist, I'll lead on this one. It's the, I'm using air quotes. Can you guys see this? Quote, quote, therapy that attempts to like change someone's sexuality, right? Basically, the idea is that if someone says they're gay, you could convert them into being straight. This is not a real thing. It is proven scientifically in many studies that it is harmful to the individual. And in some states, it's already illegal.
Yeah, and I should have been more clear when I put this on here. This would ban conversion therapy specifically for children. So if you are a legal consenting adult and you are gay and you don't like that and you think that conversion therapy is the way for you, then you could still go do it. But you could not force a child into it. In fact, it would be illegal even if the child wanted to undergo conversion therapy, is my understanding of the bill.
Interesting.
I hope it goes all the way. All the way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think it will.
It probably won't.
I actually think this might have a chance. I don't know.
Telling me there's a chance.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, certainly it's not a slam dunk, but there is so much data behind this. There's so much data behind this, number one. And number two, it's coming from a representative, Jason Dunnington, who I think has a lot of goodwill in the majority and who I think a lot of folks in the majority really trust that he doesn't have like a partisan agenda. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that guarantees anything, but I think there are a number of other representatives or senators who could run this bill and it would be dead in the water. I think the fact that it's Representative Dunnington running the bill may give it. I think it at least gets heard in committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it can pass committee, then I think anything can happen. But I think it depends largely on what committee it gets assigned to, and how the vote goes there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not unlike just the child living their daily life in Oklahoma. It's just they already are up against so much. It's such cruel and unusual punishment to go that route. They're already probably pretty shamed and, treated poorly anyway. It's just, I hope it goes all the way. And like you said, I like what you just said about Dunnington, because he does seem to have pretty solid intentions, and he's proven it a few times.
Right.
So
straight shooter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Dunnington, he and Leader Eccles are co-authoring a bill, House Bill 1269, that would make State Question 780 retroactive. So this was the state question that passed in 2016, right, to lessen offenses, certain drug offenses, from a felony to a misdemeanor, and it would go back. So folks who were currently incarcerated for back when it was a felony, it would bump them down to a misdemeanor and let them out, basically, right? Yeah,
it wouldn't be automatic. So the involved party would have to request, I think they would have to request a hearing or a review. They'd have to request, it wouldn't be just automatic.
Right. They're not.
You got to print, you'd have to go say, hey, look into this. And they'd be like, yeah.
That,
and then you'd get out.
Which I get, but also why isn't it just automatic?
So it'll pass.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why.
Okay.
Because
that's a dumb rule, but or a dumb reality, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. I mean, I think this bill passes, but I know the DAs, or a lot of the DAs and the DAs council are pissed about this and want to kill it. I think it has the legs to get through, but I think that probably some stipulations like that are why.
Is this one you guys think if it doesn't pass, it could get moved over to become a go to the vote of the people? Or do you think it's just dead?
I think it'll pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these criminal justice bills were shot down by Representative Biggs when he was in the legislature, and he's not there now. And so we've seen a lot of things float through. And, again, these are some of those laws that even 5 years ago would be unheard of, right? And here we are, hearing them. So, all right. Senate Bill 102 from now Senator George Young, former Representative Senator George Young. He wants to raise the minimum wage to $10.50 an hour in Oklahoma. This one I'm really interested in. I think it's not the full $15 that the far left wants. It's a reasonable $10.50.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know enough to have an opinion, I don't think.
So I think recently the legislature has been pretty, I wouldn't say hostile, but like not open to the idea of this. However, there's been some things that have changed since the last time this was brought up, which is that every state bordering Oklahoma, I think now, has enacted an increase to the minimum wage, so it's above the federal minimum. Maybe not Texas. I know Arkansas, Missouri did it within the last 1 to 2 years.
Right.
So now all of our border states have done this. So I think kind of like teacher salaries, that puts some pressure.
Could be a top 10 state.
All right. So I don't know. I think it would, if Senator Young was still in the House, might have a little bit better chance, just because he had more kind of, he's not a freshman there.
It's so hard because we have so many new people up there.
Yeah.
I don't have a feel for how it's going to go this year.
Totally. I mean, and again, when you think about the fact that there's 40% of them, or whatever, are brand new, maybe this, but also brand new means they're very likely to be told, like, hey, if you want any of your stuff done, toe the line, and the line is you vote no.
Right. They're susceptible. They don't have clout.
Yeah.
They gotta, Curious. All right, what's our last one here?
Do we really have to talk about it?
Sure. So this is a bill that's sponsored by a lot of people, you said? Like 9?
There's 10 people.
10 people?
Running the bill.
And this is what people would call constitutional carry, although it's not in the Constitution. This is an open carry, right?
If you're 18 and over, if you're 21 and over, or if you're over 18 and you're in the Guard or otherwise in the military, you can carry whatever kind of gun you want, wherever you want, for whatever purpose you want. Because
any gun, like,
I think so.
Just anything.
Because by God, this is America.
What about machetes?
I don't think machetes are included.
You have a machete, Krystal?
I do not on me right now.
Not on. At home, though, she's got a nice collection.
I do keep a baseball bat by my door.
That's right.
Just in case.
A couple of ninja swords.
I used to have a machete. They're badass.
I did, too. When I was a kid, my grandpa had one.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Why not?
Well, I can think of a few reasons.
To not have a machete?
But, I mean, it was 6-year-old Andy walking around with a machete in a sheath on my belt.
I mean,
out in the woods.
For you, like as a 6-year-old, but like as a person, why would you not want a machete? I don't mean to like have
He's
all the
not
time,
like cracking coconuts.
but just like have one.
Well, what are you going to do with it?
What are you not
You're
going to do?
not buttering bread with a machete.
Challenge accepted.
I do have a fun story about a sword one day.
Yes,
This is great.
When I was in DC, we had just moved, and it was like Three's company. So it was my best friend and one of our guy friends. We're all from Oklahoma, and we graduated from OU and moved out to DC, not together, but ended up together. And so we were moving, and we had the sword. It was one of the last things in the move. It was just in the back of my best friend's car, and I'd had an event that I was working on, and she was coming to the event to kind of help me out. And so she's going through security at the Ronald Reagan building, and they've got like those metal things that come up. So each car has you have to go, and they check everything, and they check your car, the outside. So she has this freaking sword in the back of her. And she, like, the minute she saw them going around, she's like, oh God, they're going to find this thing. I totally forgot. They let her in, but
with the sword?
In her car, but still, like, they let her in. I was like, would they not just hold that? Like,
right.
That's a good story.
You don't have good intentions if you have a sword in the back of your car. You're going into a federal building. Like,
right.
It's not
right.
Not normal.
What would you say you're doing with this sword?
Exactly.
Here?
I'm gonna knight someone.
Exactly.
Right.
That's fair.
We're gonna need a video of you buttering your bread with your machete.
I'll have to make that happen.
All right.
It'd be tough.
We can post that on the
we can do anything with a machete
on the Instagram. What else can we do? Yeah, like let's this is machete talk.
Yes.
Oh, we have to do our prediction. Constitutional carry will obviously pass.
You think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Golly.
I like it.
I think it will be one of the first bills that is heard and passed and signed by the
Sails on
governor.
through.
Yep.
Do you think it'll just be passed as like a goodwill gesture because they don't want to fight it?
Who?
The Democrats.
Oh, the Dems will all vote no, but there's 24 of them.
Right. I mean, I know obviously they don't have enough to, but I mean, it'll be like there'll be some heated floor debate about how this.
Oh,
is
yeah.
Also, isn't the DA's council against this?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Most Oklahomans are against it. The state chamber is against it. The Oklahoma City and Tulsa chambers are against it. Like, no one is for this except the NRA. Like, it's an NRA bill.
That's bananas.
Yeah.
I used to work for the Restaurant Association in D.C.
Yeah.
And I'd always have to preface restaurant, not rifle.
Right.
It got weird a couple times.
I could see.
Everybody's like, why did you work there? Trust me, I did not.
Talk about a salad shooter.
No, I mean, it's really, like, it's a big deal. I mean, one, because it's dangerous, but the state chamber will tell you that this is going to cost Oklahoma tens of millions of dollars, like, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, because there are sporting events that won't come here.
Right. Like,
there's artists that won't. There are touring
like the NCAA
artists.
tournament, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's concerts that won't come here.
But, I mean,
there's sporting events that won't come here.
But venues can still ban weapons, right? Like the Thunder games can say you can't bring it in.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that still is like. I mean, the Thunder games are, they're fairly easy to enforce, but
Right.
I think it's not even so much the fear that like something's going to happen at the event, but you have the NCAA basketball tournament that's at the peak, and then people get shot in Bricktown because everybody has freaking guns. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
Right.
it's not only the thought of a mass shooting like at the event. It's the fact that there are so many more guns. It's inherently dangerous.
So, I mean, let's say I get that people like guns and it's a hobby, right? But like, let's say that my hobby is birds of prey. Like, I'm a falconer, right? I don't expect to be able to bring my falcon everywhere.
Oklahoma County has a falconry club.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But they're not walking around the Myriad Garden with their falcons.
That would be badass if they were, though.
It would be kind of cool. But I'm just saying, like, a reasonable person might expect that you can't bring your falcon everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I?
No.
Even if you're, I used to collect Pez dispensers in my youth. I didn't expect to be able to bring my Pez dispenser. It didn't hurt anybody, but like I knew I couldn't bring it to church because it would be a distraction. Like, you just can't bring it everywhere.
You collected Pez dispensers. I watched
As the world turns.
Days of Our Lives, man.
Days of Our Lives.
I was a Days guy.
I will note that there are 5 bills pertaining to hogs this year, 2 of which involve the disposal of certain animal carcasses to be in accordance with certain recommendations. Anything else that you guys think is... I haven't gone through all the bills yet.
I haven't at all.
I'm behind.
Um,
Suntan lotion was a big thing last year.
I've read almost all the 2,800 bills that have been filed.
Have you?
No.
Wasn't sunscreen a big thing? Like,
Sunscreen was a big thing. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
there's a bill about sunscreen this year. House Bill 2339.
No, there's 2,800 bills this year. There are a ton of shell bills.
300 shell bills. Yeah,
There's
so
a ton of shell bills.
And we're over time, so let's end on this. Yeah, so Speaker McCall filed like 300 something shell bills, kind of on the last day. And my understanding is this is unprecedented. So shell bills are bills that have no substantive language, or they have like some language that it's just meaningless, and be like, this is the Oklahoma CARE Act of 2019, and they can be inserted later in the system or later in the process. And so the first thing, and maybe next week, Scott, let's, in addition to some other things we're going to talk about, we'll talk about the bill process as a refresher. How's that sound?
Yes.
About how a bill becomes a law.
What is he going to do with 300 shell bills?
Well, probably not much.
Nothing good.
And then he'll just insert a few things. Other things we didn't include today, but we will include on the Predict-O-Rama is, will there be a teacher pay raise? Like, just yes or no. Will the bills to allow the governor to appoint, hire and fire the other agency heads that have been proposed by Senator Treat, those will be on there. A couple other things I wrote down, but I think we'll have around 15 or so Predict-O-Rama items.
Yeah.
Yeah. Krystal, is there anything that you're watching this session?
No, I'm just going to be at the Capitol more. I've made a decision to do that. Yeah.
Is that
Why
a
not?
New Year's resolution?
I think so, yeah. It'll be the one that I've actually, will actually
Right.
do, probably.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'll be up there.
Congratulations. You've survived your first episode as a co-conspirator
Yes.
on Let's Pod This.
It's fun.
Well, we're glad. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. This was awesome.
I agree. Thank you. All right. Well, on that note, that brings us to the end of this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and rate Let's Pod This on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you get podcasts. That helps other people discover us and become better informed. Remember, you can connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Fix This OK. Scott is at SC Melson. I am at AndyOKC. Krystal, what's your Twitter handle?
I am Krystal with a K. It's Krystal Dawit. Dawit.
There you go. You can also like our Facebook page at facebook.com/letsfixthisok. Our website is letsfixthisok.org. On there you can sign up for our newsletter, read our blog, find resources. We're going to be redoing the website in the next week or two, so keep checking that out. That'll be fun. Our podcast is edited and produced by Scott and me, and Let's Pod This is a member of Mostly Harmless Media Network. Go to mostlyharmlessmedia.com, I think, and check out the other podcasts. They have a great selection out there from friends here in Oklahoma City. Our theme music is provided by the Sugar Free All-Stars. Let's Fix This is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization who strives to educate and equip all Oklahomans to engage with their government. We encourage you to get involved in any way you can. Remember, decisions are made by those who show up. Have a great week.